joining us right now from the Bay Area. He's going to call tonight's Pelicans-Warriors Game 5 on ESPN Radio back here on the Rich Eisen Show, PJ Carlesimo. How are you, PJ?
Excellent, Rich. How are you?
I am doing fine. What do you think of the chances of New Orleans somehow, some way getting off the mat here this evening?
Well, I want to be fair to Alvin Gentry and his team. They've had a great year. Alvin, hopefully, he's got his contract extended, and hopefully it's going to go a lot longer. I mean, they picked up his option, but hopefully he's going to get a long-time deal out of this because he deserves it. But they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. Golden State is playing, I think, as well as they've played all year. Steph Curry's getting more healthy every time he plays, which is important. And it's interesting because he needs the games to get healthy. They're not doing anything in practice right now. You just can't simulate at practice, particularly this time of the year, what he needs to get himself, back in the kind of shape he'd be where he's playing day in, day out. So all things are go for the Warriors, including the fact that they've won 14 straight at Oracle over the last 2 years in the playoffs. So, no, tough order tonight for New Orleans. I never say never, but this is not where you want to be. The Warriors have been through this before. They know how important it is in the playoffs. Chuck Daly used to always say, you don't want to play extra games in the playoffs. So I think the Warriors will take care of business. They'll find a way to get it done and get ready for that next round.
Well, in terms of that, then the Cavs are not going to play any extra games in the playoffs, to use the Chuck Daly, analogy.
Exactly.
So let me ask you this question, because and I'm not one of those guys that just tries to find the one negative in a sea of positives for the Cavs. But since I do have a longtime coach on the phone line right here, PJ Carlesimo, I figured I'd ask you. Rodney Hood wouldn't come off the bench last night midway through the fourth quarter. And there's already some unnamed Cavs saying they're very upset about that. And that if Rodney Hood's follow-up answers to the question of what gives is not suitable to the team, they're going to suspend him. What have you ever been in a situation like that, PJ?
Yeah, not in playoffs. I've had guys during the year, get upset. Veterans you try and stay away from. With all due respect to Rodney, he's been in the league a little while, but I don't put him in that category. If you had an older guy on the team, you don't put him in garbage time or something like that. You let the young guys play. You don't disrespect the guy. Maybe a guy you've taken out of the starting lineup. And I didn't even know about it, to be honest with you. I was flying here. Even with this series, I was in New Orleans and flew out from New Orleans. So I only saw chunks of the game last night. That's totally unacceptable. And this is me not knowing a thing about it, so I should tread softly. I'm always going to come down on a coach's side. You know that.
Yep.
You don't need that anytime, even if the coach is wrong. It's the coach's prerogative to put somebody in a game, even if he's doing something that, like I talked about, you try and tiptoe around. That's not the case with Rodney. In the playoffs, at this time of the year, completely unacceptable. That's something that I got news for you. The players are going to have an awful lot to say about that, I'm sure, post-game. And Lou and Kobe Allman, those guys will handle it. But absolutely the wrong time to do something like that. I don't know the circumstances. Yeah, okay, I'd like to hear what Rodney said and why he said it, but I can't imagine any reason why you would do that.
Yeah, he didn't say anything post-game. He was one of the first guys to skedaddle. And, the only quotes that are involving others are unnamed Cavs players saying that it's unacceptable. They're trying to win a championship. It's not about you, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess what is the etiquette for this sort of thing?
You may suspend him, you may not. Refusing to go into the game is pretty heavy duty. But, again, different people the other thing you need to know, that there may be a precedent. I hate to say that, but there may be a precedent. Maybe somebody else did this early in the year, last year, something like that, and this is what they did. They fined him. They did suspend him. They didn't suspend him. So Lou will deal with it. They'll do what they want. But I also think that Tyronn Lue is really good because he brings the player's perspective, but he's got a lot of old time in him. Even though he was a player, he was a blue-collar player for a lot of years. He paid his dues as an assistant coach most of that time with Doc Rivers. He will sense what the players feel about this, and I guarantee you I'll be shocked if the players aren't really offended and really upset at this. And I hate to say it, Rodney's not a 10-year Cav. He's somebody that, came on board this year. So I would think he'll be dealt with fairly severely.
Well, Chris Brockman, my producer, this is obviously very fluid. You have an update on this in the last couple of minutes?
Yeah, ESPN has Rodney Hood apologizing to Kobe Altman, and that he feels awful about the situation.
So I guess,
well, he should.
So then let me ask you this, PJ, because the other, story to come out of last night, or at least the aftermath of last night, is that the Raptors get demolished again by the Cavs, that LeBron sweeps them again, and that it's the same cast again, and that you're not going to change the players but the coach. How much do you think winds up at the feet of Dwayne Casey, and how much do you think is deserved?
Well, it's NBA, so a lot of it will end up at the feet of Dwayne Casey. I think very little. Some, yeah. I mean, we're a coach. That's what you get paid for in this league. There's only 30 jobs. You get paid a lot of money. But Case, knowing Case the way I do, having covered them a lot, including 2 games in the Washington series, so just recently, he's done an unbelievable job. I think you started this question by saying the cast stays the same. That's the point. The cast is the same. I love Masai Ujiri. I think he's done a great job as general manager there. But you're asking me, like, how good a coach is Dwayne Casey and how good a job has he done? Near the top in both categories. He's excellent. He's done a remarkable job there. The problem isn't Dwayne Casey. The problem is the roster, and Dwayne Casey didn't put the roster together. So here we go with the old NBA front office and everybody. Oh, let's change coaches. Come on, guys. He's done great with different rosters. Why don't you guys do a better job putting the roster together instead of trying to blame Dwayne Casey for what's going on in Toronto?
So what would you change if you were the grocery shopper?
That I don't know, because I'm not conversant with their contracts. And I'm begging off, but you know what I'm saying? They may be at a crossroads where, hey, we've had this a bulk of this roster together for a while now, and it isn't working. So we're going to have to make a big move. We got to take one of our valuable pieces that can get something else back, and we got to change it up. We have to change up their bench. Played so well for them all year, Rich. It was unbelievable. They called it the bench mob, but those guys did a great job. Van Vliet and all those guys. Picking up C.J. Miles was a great thing. I love DeMar DeRozan. That backcourt, DeRozan, Lowry. You know, we could just talk about all the pluses, why they're so good. Their biggest problem is Cleveland, honestly. You know, at the time, remember the game back when Philly was playing Cleveland, and I thought it was huge for Philly-Boston to be on that other side and to avoid. Toronto would have been so much better off on the other side and not meeting Cleveland until the finals, but still hoping somebody else beat them, because they've got a major, major roadblock with the Cavaliers. Why it is, I don't know, but they really have a confidence problem playing against the Cavs, more so than anybody. You should have a confidence problem playing against LeBron, but I think Toronto has that more than just about anybody. We had them late in the year. They played in Cleveland twice late in the year, got beat both games. They really have a problem, and the road to the Eastern Conference Finals goes through Cleveland. I'm sorry. More than anything, that's Toronto's main problem right now. But if you're Masai, if you're MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment that runs that team, it isn't acceptable. They think they've got a team. They have the best record in the East, one of the best in the entire NBA, best home record in the entire NBA. They expected to be in the big finals, not in the Eastern Conference Finals. They expected to be in the NBA Finals. So changes are coming. I think it would be terribly unfair if Dwayne Casey's involved in those changes.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.